Have you ever been in a skate shop and had trouble choosing what deck you should buy? Well, this is probably the greatest invention when it comes to choosing a skateboard deck. This is a digital angle gauge, and this will actually measure the angle of the kicks, like the nose and the tail. So you'll go to the middle here and you'll zero it out, and then you stick it up here on the nose and the tail, and it will actually measure the angle of the kicks. So this is Andy Anderson's flight deck. I know there's a lot of videos about this board. A lot of people actually got this board for free. Gifted Hater, Joe Field, he was offered the board. And I know a lot of you guys form your opinions just based on whatever he says. Like, you don't actually have opinions, you just, you know, kind of listen to what he says and just kind of pretend you have an opinion. And he said he wouldn't do it, but I paid for it. So the interesting thing about this, it's not zeroed out right now, but it's different if you put it all the way to the edge, or if you put it in the middle, or if you put it down here. The actual degrees of the nose and tail on this board is about 20, but right here, I've got it at a slightly different angle, and you can see it just kind of mellows out as it goes down, so it's not like a straight edge or anything like that. So this is a twin paddle board. It's not really a nose or a tail, and also, like I've said before, it's really steep. So this is a mellow board. This is a blank from skateshred.com. I think the nose might be more mellow than the tail, just because the nose is so short, but they're both pretty mellow. So we're going to zero this out. All right, so I probably shouldn't do this on the deck because the deck is actually moving, but I've got it zeroed out. I just got to try not to move. Let's put it up onto the nose. It's about 17.9. Let's go down a little bit. It does the same thing. It kind of mellows out as it goes down. Let's go up to the top of the tail. 16.6. So that tail is slightly more mellow than the nose. It's just quite a bit longer, so it feels like it's a little steeper. So yeah, the nose is definitely steeper on this blank from skateshred.com, but it feels more mellow just because it's so short. They're both mellow. Both the nose and tail are quite a bit more mellow. Alright, so this is the Jeff Grosso Anti-Hero with Jim Jones on it. It's the Kool-Aid deck. This was probably my favorite board of all time, and I'm thinking it had kind of a steep tail, but the tail was just so big that it still kind of worked. So I'm thinking it had sort of a steep tail, but the tail was just so big that it worked. So with the nose is kind of steep, 21.25. The tail is actually kind of mellow, 19.15. A little more mellow than some of the boards, but also this board has been really worn down and it's got quite a bit of razor tail. So I definitely think over time boards sog out, and that's probably why it's so mellow. Alright, so this is that Pal Peralta board I skated in the video where I talked about Chris Hyatt and his setup. It's what he actually skates. So with this board, there is no nose at all. On here, well, on here it says it's 3.1. So maybe it has a little bit of a rocker, maybe it's just warped. But the tail, 20.9. So, you know, a little bit steeper tail, but it's kind of a long tail too. So I think the longer the tail is, the less you feel that steepness. If it's a really short, steep tail, you can definitely feel that it's steep. This should be my thumbnail right here. So this is a Mode Freestyle deck, and the nose seems flat, but it might have just a slight curve to it. And the tail is very mellow. This is the most mellow board we've seen so far. This is a Mode Freestyle deck, and you would expect that because it is extremely mellow. So not every board from skateshred.com is super mellow. This is an example of one that was so steep that I actually couldn't skate it. So it's zeroed out here. Let's take it over to the nose. So this is the steepest we've seen so far. It's 24.5. So 24.6, and the tail is actually 20.7. So just setting the decks on top of each other, these are the same deck, and the tail doesn't seem that steep when it's sitting on top of the other board, but you can just see how insanely steep the nose is compared to the other deck. Now these were probably pressed, you know, different times, but when you're pressing boards, sometimes the one on top has a different steepness to the one on the bottom just because of the order that they're pressed in. So you can see there's a pretty extreme difference between the top deck there and the bottom deck, and they are the same board from the same company. That is kind of ridiculous. Alright, so this is the Toxic Skates deck. I have a feeling that the tail is actually steeper than the nose. That's what it feels like, but I think it's because the tail is just so narrow and thin. So we're looking at 20 here, and we're looking at 19.15 here on the nose. I do like skating the nose as the tail better on this deck, just because it doesn't seem to hurt my ankle as much. That is kind of a steep tail, so I guess I was right about this board. Now, it's a longer tail, but it's just so narrow. I think that has something to do with the way it makes me feel. I really like the nose, though. They can make a double nose deck like this, and it would have a really good pop. The nose really locks in good for nose slides and stuff like that. This cat. So if you're doing this, you might want to do it on the concrete, not on a deck, not on something that's going to move at all, because it's going to be a little more accurate if you're down here on the concrete. Let's see, now we've got 20.2. Let's try the nose, because this is supposed to be a twin. Okay. Yeah, it's about the same. So you're going to get a more accurate reading if you're down here on the concrete than if you're on a deck or something like that. And this is the cheapest digital angle gauge I could find online, so it's not a professional tool or anything like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, scroll through my channel, check out my other videos, and hit that subscribe button because I got a lot more videos to come. Thanks for watching.